Welcome back to the Privacy Impact Shop, where, as usual, I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Mr. Shaab al-Baghdadi. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, good. Yeah, all is okay. You're looking older, Ben.
How old?
52-ish, 62.
Oh, chill out.
Okay, all right.
That was not so enthusiastic.
Maybe it was these glasses.
Yeah, it's your eyesight. that's
Yes,
looking
my
older.
eyesight. You're not getting older. My eyes are getting older. Fine.
How have you been? All good?
Got a lot of interesting projects. Let's put it that way. You know, things are starting to move out of your sort of communal garden, kind of, sort of, I wouldn't say run-of-the-mill stuff, but, things that you would expect to see. We're getting...
The spicy stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's, a bit of bit of a head scratch, and got to talk to a few people and bring some, other, maybe not resource, but, opinion, talent, to supplement what we've, would be doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. What about yourself?
Yeah, there's never a dull moment. We have been sort of driving business development. We've been attending a lot of events. We're in a new financial year, so there's been a lot of work around that, business planning, all that kind of good stuff when I'm wearing my commercial hat.
Do you have two New Years then? Do you have a sort of two parties? Do you have one at the end of December and then one at, Aprilish time?
Yeah. Well, the way it's two hangovers. The way
two
I look at it
hangovers,
now.
yeah.
It's a sign of age,
both
right?
celebrating, of course. Both celebratory.
I fear the hangover. But yeah, we do have two New Years. But yeah, no, all good. It's definitely a lively and very active and buoyant market.
And what are clients asking for?
Clients are asking for a whole range, all the way from very basic stuff that perhaps they should be asking for, many years ago. So we're still seeing the fundamentals and the basics, all the way through to, highly complex, and quite sophisticated projects that we're involved with. So it's very broad indeed. Yeah.
Okay. So we're seeing a greater demand for a variety of training.
Yep.
Definitely that is, different. Still, obviously, data protection and privacy related, but, with different flavours or focuses. But we're also seeing clients starting to put a bit more demand on the fact that the landscape is changing around regulations. Now, I think in our last chat, I touched on this some time back about, the different approaches on regulatory and sort of deregulatory positions. And that's interesting. I think it was a while ago, and I should know the guy's name, but it was one of the chiefs at Microsoft sort of came out with a statement, sort of said, look, he recognises that, AI can cause harm.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it's probably net positive. And therefore, for AI and the advances within that not to be stifled, you should put trust in organisations. Well, that's kind of a big ask, I think.
Huge ask.
When
you will.
Yeah, trust me. I mean, when I hear that, immediately I'm untrusting.
Yeah, coming from an exec at Microsoft, many of us have a very little choice in the matter.
Exactly. So, I'm not, I don't want to lose all my cost of my Microsoft licenses to go up. So, we do love you, but it's an interesting statement.
Yeah,
because if you've got these areas where, the US is going down a more deregulated route, which, that's historically been their position, although they do have a lot of sectorial and they are moving into state data protection laws.
Yep.
A while ago, there was a couple of remits came out talking about the fact that, this is in the federal area, talking about the fact that you need to use technologies to, empower leadership within federal areas. But even there needs to be impact assessments to assess harm and work out what needs to be done. Then you've obviously got the EU, which is its comprehensive model. You've got Brazil that's, looking at AI law, Singapore, with their own data protection requirements around technology. China as well. So we're finding, whereas before, when we had GDPR, it had this sort of ripple effect that we started to see harmonisation.
Yeah.
We're now seeing large economic blocks having divergence. And they are, there's a bit of a battle there. And that means that from a client perspective, they're going, which way do we go? And we obviously, and that's what I was saying earlier, we're having to bring in a bit more sort of resource around that to support that. Mm-hmm. But it also means it's not as straightforward of just going, well, look, here's what this regulation says. It's kind of down to you. That's I don't think that's showing a lot of value.
Yeah.
So you really need to understand, not just from a data protection perspective, a privacy perspective, but what's for business strategy.
Yeah. And what we've seen in the past, and even to this day, is I think there's always a desire for perhaps efficiencies and simplicity to find a global standard.
Yes.
But are the days of that being appropriate over? And is it that now we need to move more to having, far greater localized knowledge and skills versus what we've previously seen as we have a global data protection framework and we've tried to, get to a point where we've got a one size fits all?
Yeah, that's such a great question.
So what's the answer?
Let me try and give you if not a great answer, a mediocre answer at least. So I think what we find is normally you would try the approach, a sort of a governance approach to this, to managing multi-regulated and global sort of situations, would be you would put these requirements into certain areas.
Yes.
So you could use, say, for example, OECD principles or guidelines, and that would be, purpose limitation, notification, data usage, individual rights, choice, consent, those sort of areas.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that. But there are commonalities. Globally, there are commonalities. And the approach used to be, if for example, let's say, for example, in California, you have to, say, notify someone or respond to an access request within, I think it might be 45 days or 35 days, whatever it may be. And in Europe, it's 1 calendar month. So let's go for slower. So that could be 28 days.
Yeah.
The approach used to be, for that particular area of your program, you go with the most stringent requirement. So it's a sort of, you carve up, if you will, your requirements into certain areas. What are my notification requirements? What are my, rights that I have to give to individuals? So under the Brazilian law, not only can I ask for my information to be deleted, Brazilian data protection law, but I can also ask you to anonymise the data.
Okay.
We don't have it under GDPR.
No.
So there are differences. And the approach would have been, well, we provide the anonymisation option to everyone. Now, the difference, I think this is the difference, is that there is global political and economic pressures which kind of muddy the waters on that. So back to your question, it was a very long-winded answer, I apologise. Local knowledge may be more important sometimes because you might take a more business strategic approach to go, we used to do this kind of global standard with these variations, but what is better now is we're actually going to almost silo that whole part of a business.
Yeah. Because
it's so economically important, or it's so economically disruptive. If we try and, if I'm playing mainly in a sort of USD regulated market and I've got a very small highly regulated area, say within Europe, whereas normally I would have changed the whole standard around that, I might go, do you know what, I'll just almost localise that, canonise it and localise it, because the impact of that now is so huge to my whole business operations.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting time to be alive, and I think with what's going on globally, politically, economically, as you've already touched on and alluded to, on one hand, technology is enabling global trade to become far easier.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we've got things like political crisis. And various regulations that are saying, well, actually no, so we need to put some control and and measures around these things. So
yeah,
I think it's finding the balance, as always, with many of these things, and trying to ensure that if you are a global business, that you are striking that the correct and right balance with meeting what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're right. I mean, obviously, if you're a global business, it's a huge concern.
Yeah.
But, if you're, Bob's Pasty Shop, and suddenly you go, and you're using AI to make your pasties, and suddenly you go, do you know what, I'm not just going to sell them in, Bristol or Scunthorpe or, wherever.
Yep.
I want to start selling them in France and Germany or Berlin or, wherever, then you do need to understand that. So the threshold for actually having to tip into other data protection laws, requirements, could be quite small, really, quite low. And it would be, just to go, oh, okay, the US is the wild west of data protection laws. It isn't. So even if you go, oh, okay, it's becoming more frictionless, we're trying to sort of break into that market.
Yep.
Again, there are, sector, state requirements that you need to understand. So it is becoming a real challenging area, which means for us as data protection and privacy professionals, it's as important to be able to understand the the goals of that organisation, so we can future-proof and provide flexibility in the programme. Because what is true today may not be true tomorrow.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Well, it's certainly keeping us busy.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been providing data protection and privacy, consultancy and services for well over 10 years, so it's nothing new to us. But I'd say within the last 2 to 3 years, we've absolutely rocketed. And people ask, how have you managed to do that? And I think, the market and the demand is partly for that. But like with any organisation that wants to capitalise on the opportunities out there, there's usually maybe not a secret formula, but you need to have the right business model. And coming on to areas, and it makes me think, when people ask, well, how are you kind of growing your privacy practice so rapidly? And number of reasons, number of things, and you combine those together, and the formula works. And one of the things that I was actually listening to another podcast, and
you traitor.
Not privacy related, I must add. It was a business podcast, and something I've always believed in, but they just happened to be talking about it, and it so rings true that I think to really truly understand something, you have to be able to teach it. And I think as our head of data protection at Blackfoot, given that you are a trainer and you do teach it day in, day out, I think that's one of our, one of the ingredients, I guess, to our formula of success, in that, you're consulting, you're running the practice, you're training, and it's no secret that we've got competitors coming to us saying, can you train our consultants, including, a couple of the big four. And there's always an argument commercially to go, do we really want to be doing that? You can counter that as, certainly in the spirit of data protection and privacy community, it's the right thing to do. The market's certainly big enough. And if someone else, you know, if we don't, someone else will. So, so let's be part of that. But again, it's, you know, training those consultants. As we've talked about on previous podcasts, you've been on every side of the fence and on the fence, etc. So that gives us a competitive advantage, and you know, that's typically the answer I would provide to anyone asking how you're growing the privacy practice so rapidly.
Yeah, and if I can just say and give you a sort of personal view on it.
Yeah.
So it's always a challenge, and I'm talking about my time, or, you know, this isn't just about me, but yeah, I'm sure everybody has this, about where you allocate your time. So a big part of this role is whether you're a DPO, a program manager, chief privacy officer, consultant, doesn't matter, is staying up to date and relevant with what's happening.
Yep.
Now, why I really enjoy the mix of consultancy, implementation, building a team, building a practice, and training is because it forces you to stay relevant.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're training, people are asking you questions, and if you don't know the answers, that's not a good position. So you always bring your experience and, you know, the scars and the, you know, successes into, you know, the delivery. Fine. But you also get something back from training. You absolutely do. You know, it is very rare on a 2 or 4 day course that you walk away and not learn something.
Yep.
You know, normally you would. That's why I love it. That's why I love that mix of, you know, doing and, you know, imparting, you know, skills and knowledge as well.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you get to meet a lot of people, right? Of all walks of life, of all industries, and the insight that you get and bring in, you know, bring back into the business as part of doing that is invaluable for us as well. You know?
Because one minute I'll be talking to people from legal counsel, I'll be talking to people from pharmaceuticals, manufacturing. You know, it's not an industry specific piece.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with people of different backgrounds culturally, which is really nice. And you're dealing with people with different levels of experience.
Yeah.
So it's great. It is great. And yeah, it's a two-way street. So what you get from that, you bring back to your clients, and what you learn from your clients, you take into the sort of, you know, teaching arena as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a common thing that comes up, and, you know, customers say it all the time, don't they? It's, you know, well, we can only see within our business. You guys have got to reach far and wide. So you know, what else is happening out there? That seems to be really valuable, and you know, that's something that I think customers, you know, do ask quite frequently, because they haven't got that visibility, they haven't got that outreach to see what's going on out there more broadly within other organisations. You know, there's not a day that goes past where someone doesn't ask, well, what's everyone else doing?
I know.
So
I think it's called business intelligence, isn't it? I mean, in my day it was being nosy, but there you go.
So where are you seeing the demand specifically around training courses? Is there a particular course that is of a higher demand in terms of delivery right now?
They marry each other.
Yeah.
So normally business and client demand will filter out into training and certification.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you know, you can't have training that drives organisational wants. Doesn't work like that. It's organisations either have a business need or a regulatory need.
Yeah.
And therefore need people to be able to, you know, deliver on that. So what you're seeing at the moment is, from a data protection perspective, people understanding AI.
Yes.
And there are courses around, you know, technical implementation, and they are getting more technical. And what's really big is governance. And if you look at, you know, this idea of trustworthy AI, or, you know, human-centric, you know, which is, that probably means sort of, you know, positively contributing to the human experience. AI doing that, and I don't want to go off into a philosophical course here, but that's sort of part of it. Then this whole part of ethics, privacy, regulation, technology, business strategy, data protection and privacy is very kind of central within that. It's got a real, sort of central part. But it's not only that. You've got copyright law, you've got, safety issues, you've got so many other areas, and by its very definition, you can't be an expert in everything. So, governance, whether that's things like the NIST RMF framework, or the ISO 42001 framework, or more generally around privacy or data protection, 27701, we're starting to see businesses starting to go, is that the right approach for us? Is that what we should be doing? And then you also see more demand for people asking for those courses, not necessarily from our clients, because, but generally, and you can link the two. You can go, okay, so we're starting to hear about this. And in the training market, we're starting to see people ask about that as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, very useful. Good insight. Well, look, we have run out of time. Time flies in here, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Do we get older in here, or do we stay the same age? Otherwise, we'll just stay here.
It's not some sort of time capsule machine.
Oh, is it not?
No.
Oh,
we don't have one of those.
I'm here under false pretenses.
Well, look, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you can subscribe, like, comment, share. Please share the love, and it does support us. So thank you very much for watching. We shall see you on the next one.
Brilliant. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you so much.